Nazra, the scourge of man!
The monster inside of me, you better watch out if you ignite me. The road ahead of full prophecy to be the greatest beast the world has ever seen. I feed him every day like the bones clean. I feed him all the hate and he grows me, and he gets claws real big, pissed off quick. And if you cross him, you might drop dead. Metaphorically, of course, settling the score, never getting bored, loves the blood and gore. Always wanting more, freedom from the source. They don't really understand until they feel the force departed. If you start shit, you'll be heartless in the darkness. Torn apart quick, you left scars ripped, you'll be chewed up and discarded. And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious. So fight for your life and reject it. You better give me space, I'm protective. My adrenaline spikes when I'm threatened. And if you stay in my way,
Don't fucking move. You're not, who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that? You know damn well who I am. Who the fuck is that?
What is up, gamers? Today we are power scaling Nas'hrah, the scourge of man, the bringer of chaos. We are power scaling him, okay? Now this is actually something that's, in my opinion, pretty easy to do. And before we get into it, I just want to say right away that Conor McGregor clip, Conor McGregor is Grogeroth, and then obviously Nas'hrah is whoever the fuck that guy is, am I right? Anyway, beyond that, Nas'hrah is seen as invincible when you first get him on your team, because he literally is invincible. He can't die while he's with you. You can't kill him when you fight him. He insta-kills you, and he also can't starve or go crazy, or because he already is kind of crazy if we're being honest. Not to mention he's a floating head, and if you can live as a floating head, you can probably live through anything, I imagine. Because usually decapitation is like the one thing people can't live through. So when you can live through that, it's like maybe you're kind of tough, you know what I'm saying? So when I first played Fear and Hunger, I thought Nas'hrah was the end-all be-all. I thought he was uber powerful. I thought he was unstoppable. And I think many people have that same belief when it comes to Nas'hrah. And I came here to tell you today that is complete and utter bullshit. Nas'hrah is powerful. Lore-wise, he's pretty powerful, but he's honestly not that strong, if we're being 100% honest. And I'll get into why. First off, let's just talk about his feats. Obviously, the biggest, most important feat is that he became a new god. That puts him at new god level, which, you know, from your knowledge, is the second most powerful being besides yourself in the game of Fear and Hunger. Number one is obviously all of the old gods. Number two is the new gods, and that's just how it goes. Obviously, if you play through the game, you become stronger than the new gods, but we're not including ourselves right now. So, he's the second most powerful being in the game, which is very, very strong, right? But it's not unstoppable strong. And then you have to take into consideration that he is badly maimed and was defeated by the other new gods when he attempted to betray them. So, now we're getting to the fact is Nas'hrah is weaker than all the current new gods. He's weaker than the Tormented One. He's weaker than the Fertile One. He's weaker than the Dominating One. He's weaker than them. If I forgot one, I'm sorry. They have dumbass names. I forgot them. I'm sorry. But anyway, Nas'hrah is weaker than all of them. At one point, he was their equal. Don't get me wrong. At one point, he was their equal. But then he betrayed them and was defeated and cast out. And now he is significantly weaker. Right? He's a floating fucking head, and they have their full bodies and full forms. Right? He is just a floating head. And now, you might say, and I thought about this for a while as well. This got me stumped at first as well. You might say, wait a minute, Cook. Wait a minute. Nas'hrah, when you ask the new gods questions, if you ask about Nas'hrah, why Nas'hrah is with you, the new gods start talking shit about Nas'hrah, and in response, Nas'hrah burns one alive, as you guys saw in the intro. His response is essentially killing a new god. Now, we're not sure if he actually killed the new god or just burnt him to the crisp, but factoring in they did nothing to punish Nas'hrah for what he did, you can go ahead and say that he took the W in that situation and defeated a new god without taking any damage himself. And that gets into something else I want to talk about. The new gods really aren't that strong, okay? Because there's new gods every so often, and the most current new gods are the strongest ones, but the older the new gods get, the weaker and weaker they become. So it is likely he just killed a super old new god that was probably not that strong, and it's unlikely he even killed him. He probably just burned him and harmed him, if he even did that much damage. So that scene appears to make him look much stronger than he really is. In reality, he probably likely did nothing, and if he did actually manage to hurt the new god, or I guess an old new god, it was an old new god, and it was significantly weaker than the current new gods. And you might be saying, well, how do we know we can't just do that to the new gods? It's because he needs our help in the game to fight them. His whole goal is to kill the new gods when you meet him. And why would he not have achieved that goal if he had the potential to do so? He obviously understood, even though he won't admit it, because the worst person to go to, though, when you're judging Nas'hrah's strength is Nas'hrah himself, because he treats himself as the legend, the undefeatable, unstoppable king of everything, strongest guy ever. When in reality, that's a lie. He is not stronger than any of the new gods. He cannot defeat any of them one-on-one, and that is why he clings to your party and follows you around. He just does not have the power to do it himself. So, Nazra kills the new gods. With you, he's weaker than a new god. We know that for sure. But how much weaker is he? You know? Like, if I put him in a room with a tormented one and they had a 1v1, how badly would Nas'hrah lose? In my personal theory, pretty damn badly, in my personal beliefs. Because the tormented one, even with a full team, for example, with Nazra on it, it's rare the tormented one that's easy to beat. He is fucking strong as hell. Okay, he is a tough guy to fight, and Nazra is not particularly helpful against the tormented one. He just uses his black orb, so that seems to be his most powerful magic, is the black orb, or summoning his giant creature beast, which he never does again, and I imagine he can't just take that thing everywhere. So I imagine he only has the creature, the giant ape monster, when he's actively in the pit of flesh. So that basically means his strongest spell is Dark Orb. Nas'hrah, the Scourge of Man's strongest spell is Dark fucking Orb. That's not that intimidating. And for someone like the Tormented One, who has so many different abilities and so many different powers, that's fucking light work. So I think Nas'hrah is significantly weaker than any of the new gods. And that really puts into perspective how weak Nas'hrah is in the grand scheme of things, because the new gods pale in comparison to the old gods. And we actually have a direct confrontation between the traces of Groggoroth, right? Which isn't an old god, that's just the traces of Groggoroth. That means Groggoroth was in that area at some point. He was in the God of the Depths at some point and was just chilling there, and his traces were left. Those traces instantly defeat Nas'hrah, the new god. Instantly defeat Nas'hrah, no difficulty. So that would mean Nas'hrah is far weaker than any of the old gods. And I mean far weaker. We're talking like maybe 1,000th of their strength, right? He is considerably weaker than any of the current new gods. However, he is stronger, more likely, than some of the older new gods. So, he is weaker than the old gods. He's weaker than the new gods, but he's stronger than the new gods that came before the current new gods. Right? So, in the dungeons, he's kind of third on the totem pole, right? He's the third strongest person in the dungeons until you eventually ascend and either become a new god yourself, or defeat the traces of Groggoroth. When you do that thing with your character, you immediately become stronger than Nas'hrah. Or if you even kill one of the new gods without Nas'hrah in your party, or even with Nas'hrah in your party, that is when your character ascends past Nas'hrah in power, lore-wise. So that makes Nas'hrah the fourth strongest in the dungeons, because you have the old gods, the new gods, your player character, and then Nas'hrah. And that's how it goes. And lore wise, that makes sense to me. I think lore wise, that makes sense to most people. So in the grand scheme of things, he is the fourth most powerful. Now, if you start bringing in, talking about each of the old gods separately, each of the new gods separately, each of the main characters separately, then he's like fucking like 12th or 13th strongest in the world, or at least in the dungeons, which significantly drops him off, obviously. But I'm doing like as entities, so I'm giving him fourth strongest in the game of Fear and Hunger. and it's a pretty good 4th place. I would say he's pretty steady there. So, and then Nazra, super strong. Not that strong, though. Not undefeatable. Not godlike. Even though he is a god. Not godlike. Just pretty strong guy. Definitely one of the most dangerous things in the dungeon. But not quite there. And that's my video breaking down Nas'hrah gamers. Also, I ignored Termia largely for this. Because in Termia, Nazra's power is at an all-time low. He's a complete fucking joke. If we did President Nas'hrah, he's weaker than most of the cast of Termia. Seemingly off rip. He's seemingly pretty useless in Termia from what I've gathered. So, we're talking about old Fear and Hunger only. And in Termia, at the point Termia happens, Nas'hrah is so old, he's no longer a new god. And his just power is so dwindled at that point. He's basically a loser. He's just a floating fucking head at that point that does nothing. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys see my reasoning. I think I made a lot of good points. I think everything I said makes sense. I don't think Nas'hrah is the end all be all. I hope most of you guys agree. But thank you guys for watching. Stay happy, stay blessed. Like and subscribe. It's been Game Fanatic Cook.